In this corner, standing at 6'5", weight class unknown, but hailing from the city of sin, put your hands together for Jamieson Welch. And in this corner, standing at 5'10", weighing in at pounds, and coming to us from his super secret bunker with no AC in Tucson, Arizona, put your hands together for Luis Montemayor.
Welcome back to a special edition of the Mixed Company Podcast. Of course, my name is Jamieson, and I'm joined by Luis as always. And Luis, got a lot to talk about, man. We finally got the fight we talked about over a year ago. What are your thoughts? What happened? What's going on? How was the night? All the above.
Man, I got so much to say, but you know what? I got to start here. I'm going to allow you for a minute to sit back and give me my flowers, compliment me, because most of boxing media said Canelo was going to take the fight. Canelo's going to win by a decision. I was the man who said Bud Crawford could pull it off. I said he was going to be underestimated. I said do not count out Bud Crawford. And on Saturday night, we saw Terence Bud Crawford win by unanimous decision against Canelo Alvarez in this mega fight. So, go ahead. Let me know. Come on, tell me I was right. Tell me I was right.
You have a lot of very good points over the year, just in terms of just even the hypothetical of the matchup. You mentioned things about Canelo being more of a short guy that's stocky instead of being a taller guy that's lean. And as the fight went on, I'm like, Luis had a point because there wasn't a whole lot of movement. The hand speed kind of wasn't there. It was like a big slow guy in the ring compared to a Crawford who felt, even though he's older, he felt like a fresher, more athletic, had more pop in his punches and his step. And I'm like, damn, Luis did say this for the last year. He's been saying, like, hey, Canelo's still elite, but it's not the same Canelo we remember from 5 years ago or 7. It's not that particular guy. And I'm like, damn, like it all came around like round 6 or 7. I'm like, okay, this is what Luis has been talking about. But until you fight an elite fighter, you kind of don't see it because you can get by when you're fighting lesser guys. You can get by on a lot of things, but once you're in the ring with another elite guy, all your flaws get exposed, and it sure came to light Saturday night.
Sure. The thing that blew me away right when it started is Bud actually looked huge. He looked so much bigger, beefier than Canelo. And I think Canelo, of course, looked, muscular and in good shape, but leaner than maybe in the last, let's say last year's fights. So maybe he was trying to do the same thing as, get that I talked about, get leaner, maybe move a little faster on his feet. But yeah, Bud was looking he looked like Bane in that goddamn ring.
He was very comfortable with the way he was walking around with. That's the thing. He didn't necessarily need power, but he was able to dictate the fight in a lot of ways. Being able to frustrate an elite opponent like Canelo was probably the most impressive thing for me, where Canelo just couldn't solve the puzzle. He just couldn't solve it. Didn't know when to attack, didn't know when to, didn't really know how to defend. It was just always a step or two late to the punch, and that was ultimately the fight. Even though I thought it was going to be a closer fight. I thought it was a closer fight than everybody else had it. I know you go on Twitter and Blue Sky and IG, and if you're at a bar, people think the fight's going one way or another. I thought the fight was 5-5. I thought the judges would have the fight at 5-5 after 10 rounds because that's just how judges are, because everybody sees the fight differently. What you may see in a round, I might see different. So in the first 3 to 4 rounds, if it's 2-2, it's not too far gone in my eyes, even though I may have it 3-1, you may have it 3-1, or somebody may have it 4-0, but every judge is different. So I knew it was going to be a closer fight than we all, than people were thinking. But at the end of the day, Bud, even though the 115, 113 is kind of wild, Bud did do enough to take care of business. It was very impressive.
I did stick with the idea that Bud was going to win by either a split or majority decision because of what you said, what our amazing guest, sportscaster Al Bernstein said in our previous episode. Go back and listen to that. Just because we talked about Canelo Crawford doesn't mean we talked a lot about the state of boxing today. Still relevant. Definitely check out that episode. But he made the point, as did you, that Canelo gets the benefit of the doubt on the cards, especially in Vegas. So I honestly was surprised that it went full unanimous decision, even after the performance. We talked on the group chat a bit about how you expected a wild card, like a ridiculous card.
I told you, I was like, hey, don't be surprised. When I heard 115, 113, I was prepared. I was like, oh, they're about to do this. And I was like, oh, no. But Yeah, I mean, that's what it felt like when I heard one, because it was 116, 112. I'm like, all right, that's kind of what we've seen. Well, 115, 113 goes either way. Like when that score gets tossed, that literally goes in. I was like, oh no, but they got it right. But yeah, I expected that. I thought it was going to be on the card. It was going to be very close, and not because Canelo fought the great fight, but when you have that kind of pedigree and you're that kind of guy, you get the benefit of the doubt, especially early on in the fight. The judges is going to give you in a not so busy round. The judge is going to give the benefit of the doubt to the guy that is basically favored in the fight. That's just how it always goes. Whether it's right or wrong, we can debate that for a long time. But we've seen some of these fights now to where the guy that's favored for whatever reason gets the benefit of the doubt in those rounds that there's not a lot of activity in.
Did you think it was a good fight? Did you like the outcome of the quality of the fight?
It had the perfect mixture of boxing and also action. It wasn't a strictly 12-round boxing match where you had, not necessarily boring, but it wasn't slow on action. You didn't have boxers, jab, defend for 12. You didn't have that. You had power punches. You had flurries. You had guys making adjustments. It was a perfect mixture. If that was my first boxing match, I would have loved it. You know what I mean? If that was I always kind of equate it to that. This is the first time I've ever watched boxing. You threw me into that fight, I'm like, oh, when's the next one? You know what I mean? It had the perfect mix of everything. So if I'm explaining to someone new, I'm like, hey, this is boxing. You see what Terence Crawford is in this stance. He's able to do this, and that. He's able to defend while also attacking. This is why. And same thing with Canelo, even though as the fight went on, it wasn't a whole lot more strategy. It was more trying to land power punches. So being able to explain that while also having a fight that's entertaining, it hit all the numbers to me. It hit all the metrics to me.
Same. Here's something that I never thought that I wouldn't be able to articulate before the fight. And what really, really stuck with me about Bud's chances is his ability to adapt, which I didn't realize what I was thinking until I saw him a few rounds in. He moved like a guy that belonged to that weight class.
Yes. He looked real comfortable. He looked very comfortable.
The standard sort of take on this was, well, he's going to get a lot bigger. He's going to be slower. But it's not a matter of like speed or no speed. It's a matter of can you adapt to walking around at that weight, like you said. And he looked like a guy that could have been in that same weight class for years now. He looked like a formidable opponent for Canelo specifically. And I think that's kind of really what had me thinking that I was going to go for a Bud win. I would go back and forth, of course, but at the end of the day, I think that's what clinched it. And you just saw him, like you said, maybe by round 3 or so, I was like, damn, he looks good at that weight class. He looks in control of his feet. He came out southpaw, which Canelo had trouble with Billy Joe Saunders at the beginning before he timed him out. So smart fighter, used a lot of high IQ. He wasn't slow. But he wasn't and that's something that you specifically said. It wasn't going to be Bud Crawford versus Errol Spence.
Yeah, no, that wasn't going to happen. And also kudos to Canelo's chin. Canelo has probably the best chin I've seen in this situation. He's taking some shots, and I thought back later that evening, that trilogy versus Triple G, even though there was a draw and he won close fights, that wears down a fighter. Those fights wear on you. When you have those kind of fights with that kind of guy, it wears on you. Crawford didn't have those kind of wars with guys like that. He doesn't have 36 rounds like that. And they're not discrediting. I'm just saying just overall, when you have those kind of fights, those age you a lot quicker. We've seen other guys have trilogies and even 4-part series, and you can see how those things wear down a guy. And it has felt like, as great as Canelo was, and it still is, you just feel that he just wasn't the same guy. And I think it's a culmination of everything. I think it's a culmination of all. He's been a very active fighter. He's fought some really tough fights. And it's just one of those things where sometimes you're just not the best guy that night. Nothing wrong with it at all. I just don't think the styles of the two boxers is not a good matchup for him looking back at it. But it's a culmination of everything.
Yeah, he took a lot of bombs and he handled himself well. But I did say another thing I said is that I don't think Bud was going to be able to break, hurt, or knock down Canelo. But those power punches were going to land, and they were going to look good to the judges. And they look good. And you go back and look at Instagram highlights, some of those stills. There was one kind of really funny one where it was a shot of Canelo getting a punch landing on Canelo, and then one of him looking side-eyed at Bud, and the caption was just like, Canelo's wondering what his life is right now at this moment.
Yeah.
And I believe that. I really believe that.
And to be honest with you, it's one of those things to where once you can land those kind of shots, your confidence is sky high, especially when the other guy's not able to land. It was like, oh, this guy's in control of the fight, and there's really not much Canelo can really do, because the kind of shot Canelo needed to land, he couldn't land versus Bud. That's the thing. At the end of the day, the home run swing he needed, he wasn't going to catch Bud with that. It just wasn't going to happen that night.
Yeah. And you could tell him getting frustrated halfway through the fight. He was fighting frustratedly. You saw it against Bivol. Yeah. And you even saw it against Berlanga a bit. Not that guy was a fantastic opponent, but, he's just a beefy dude, again, who was able to handle those shots really well. And William Skull, just because he was dancing around. Like, now you see the pattern of frustrated Canelo trying his best and just not getting where he needs to be. And once I saw that, I was like, it's clipped. That's it. We're going to get a Bud win.
Absolutely. And then also, like, when you look at the fight, once a guy is not able to go to plan B and there's no plan C, it's like, oh, this is kind of over. Like, I mean, even though it was close early, the back half of the fight was, it was what it was. Now, let me ask you, since we saw what we saw and we know boxing the way we do we need a rematch?
I want a rematch. Of course I would want a rematch. The energy of that night was so awesome. It was so the anticipation was amazing. I don't want it to be like chasing the dragon where I want that same feeling again. It's never going to be the same. Right. But if we can recapture a little bit, I would love a rematch. My heart was pounding. I'm not a kid. Like when the ring walks happened, like for most of the fight, it was just boom, 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 because I was so excited for the fight itself. The anticipation of us talking about it for a year or so, everything, just whether it was going to happen or not, like it was real. It was finally real, and I was there in front of the TV. And yeah, man, this fight really, really reminded me of why I love boxing so much. And here's the thing: I don't need a mega fight like that every single weekend. I don't. No. I just like watching.
Would be nice. Like once every 90 to 120 days would be dope.
Yeah, but if the unexpectedness of the Bud win for most people, not for me, but for most people, I'm sure that there would still be excitement for a rematch. So, do we need it? I don't know. Do I want it? Absolutely. I absolutely want a rematch. What about you? How do you feel about it? Is it necessary?
If we get one, cool. But here, my thing is, Bud says after the fight he wants to be at 160. That's a whole different can of worms, and I don't know what Bud's goals are. So I don't know if Bud wants to make most money going forward or he wants to take on the next best challenger going forward. Those are the questions we have no idea. So it's tough talking about who would he fight, who can he fight. When we don't know those things, it's kind of tough. He should fight Bivol. Or it's just not. It's really difficult. However, knowing Bud the way we know Bud, this was like the first kind of cash grab. Well, the second kind of cash grab fight he's fought. He's more of a say, hey, whoever the biggest comp is, let's run it and whatever. So I can see him fighting someone that's not going to bring him the biggest amount of money just to do what he does. But I think he's going to be smart about it. I think we're not going to see him for the rest of this year, obviously. You're probably looking at the back half of next year, if I had to guess. He's an older guy, so I think he probably takes the rest of this year off. And then going forward, we probably get an announcement in the late winter or early spring about his next plans.
Agreed. Yes, we don't know what his plans are, but we can speculate as much as we want. The man has all the cachet in the world right now. Whatever he wants to do, people are going to follow him. And what we said last episode was people might know him, but don't put enough respect on his name. Yes. Now they're gonna do that shit.
He's the best of this generation, and he's on the Mount Rushmore of our lifetimes. Right. He's that good. Like that's where he's at now. He's that good.
Agreed. With that said, though, he's only human. He is, and he's almost 40, and he doesn't want to go out challenging somebody like a. Here's the thing. Let's talk about our that poor bastard David Benavidez, who we keep screaming up over and over again. He should not challenge a Benavidez. He should probably going down to 160 is probably the best option for him. Because we're going to run into the Canelo problem of him fighting big guys that lower their weight.
Big, younger guys, too. Guys that have the same amount of reach. Like, I think the thing that we can talk about is Crawford's reach for his size is very impressive. And if you have somebody with the same reach or even a longer reach and that's younger and more athletic, I don't know what that looks like. I think that presents some challenges in the ring that this fight did not. Not saying he wouldn't win or not saying he would lose, but just saying it's a different type of fight that takes place. So it would be very interesting to see. But yeah, man, Bivol, but if he does, I don't know. I don't know. But here's the thing. Those are fights we want to see. Like, that's the thing. We don't like, I don't want to see him fight a tomato can. I don't want to see him take a stopgap fight. I know you don't either. Now we'll watch and we'll be happy he's fighting, but we don't want to. He's at the point now where he has to fight someone of substance. He has to. There's no way around it.
Yes, but you also have made the point, you have also made the point that you want to be smart about your next fight, especially at a time like this. You're riding high, and do something that is a quality fight, quality competition, but also not something that's going to get you embarrassed on live TV after your biggest win of your entire career, right?
Right.
So
I would run it back with Canelo and get the A-side money or get 50-50 on the money personally. That would be my thing. Because it's a very favorable matchup for him. And there's things he could probably improve upon in the next fight as well. So that'd probably be my thing for him. But again, I'm not in his camp. I don't know. Also, I don't know what 168 did to his body. I don't know. We don't know yet. We'll find out, but we don't know what the long-term ramifications of that. If there's any, there might not be any, but we have no clues because he immediately said 160 after the fight, and that was kind of telling. So who knows?
That's a really good point. I mean, it's never easy to put on that much weight in terms of muscle. It's easy for me to put on that much weight just on a long weekend. Just keep the tab going, and I'll make weight, not for the right reasons, but I'll make it.
Tab food combined, it's all bad.
But this is one of those things maybe that he's like, I have to do it for this fight to get this W. But I can't live like this. I can't, continue my career at this weight. We don't know.
Well, I think he walks around like at 175, 180.
Okay.
So if that's the case, getting to 168 is easy. Like that's not a problem. But again, fighting that kind of fight at this age, I don't know how his body responds. That is gonna be interesting to see. But he immediately said 160. So when you say 160, it means you may have somebody in mind. Normally, that means you have somebody in mind or you have something in mind. Because I'm very curious on the next plans. Like, I'm very, very curious because now he's the go-to guy. He's the guy everyone wants to see. He's the guy that can sell an arena. He can't sell out a stadium by himself. But he can definitely sell out an NBA arena for sure.
100%. Let's switch tracks a little bit. Talk less about the actual fighters or plans, but I'm curious. You had said during our last episode, which we recorded with the legendary sportscaster Al Bernstein, that you didn't really see a lot of hype out in Vegas where you are. Did that change throughout the week? We recorded early in the week. What was the vibe like on Friday night, Saturday? Where you're from?
It wasn't the same. It was cool, but it wasn't. Rest in peace, Ricky Hatton. It was not that kind of environment. It wasn't that. That was one of the craziest weeks I've ever had in the city. That the people came over upon 10 days early and then they're drunk the city out of alcohol. So it wasn't that kind of weekend. It definitely wasn't Pacquiao Mayweather. It was not Pacquiao McGregor. It wasn't Pacquiao JM. It was because underrated fan base boxing. Our Filipino brothers and sisters are very adamant boxing fans. They come and support. They support their guy. And it's different. But this was a good weekend, but it wasn't like the city's buzzing. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody can't wait. It wasn't ho-hum, but it wasn't like other fights in the past. Now, there could be a lot of reasons for it. One, everybody gets to watch on Netflix. So it's not like, oh, I got to go to a fight party. I got to go to the ballroom, watch it. Hell, all the casinos had it on. I think it was one of those things to where if you got Netflix, you'll be able to watch it. I think that's a big part of it. But also, Terence Crawford, even though he's an amazing boxer, we don't know him outside of boxing. We don't know his name or brand outside of boxing. So it's not going to be like a transcendent star. Like when Pacquiao was fighting, he was more popular damn near outside the ring than in. Obviously, Floyd and obviously, like there's certain guys that have more of a cachet outside of their sport than in. Terence Crawford doesn't have that at the moment. That might change, it may not. But the casual person is not going to be like, oh, I know who that is. Like Terence Crawford can walk down the street and the average person will not know who he is.
That is a very good point. Yeah, because I was very curious about that because this is a fight in a football stadium, Legion Stadium. So I was wondering, like, this is such a big deal just in the terms of bodies going to see the fight. Like, why wasn't it hyped up in town? But it makes perfect sense. I mean, yeah, a lot of people have Netflix. A lot of people have Netflix and they don't care about boxing and they just put it on. I saw on Instagram like the day after they were having a watch party at some Mexican restaurant I hadn't heard of. It was like just one of those places that's like a food truck with some tables that I was eating like in the middle, like on the side of the road. That was awesome. Like I'm glad that they did that. They were having their watch party, but like that would have never happened for a DAZN fight,
Exactly. And so that's the difference. That's the difference. Not saying it's a bad thing because I think it's dope being able to go on Netflix and watch, Netflix. I think that's a good thing. That's something that we're going to have more of. So that's cool. However, the buzz is not the same. I think there's several reasons for that. One, it is NFL season as well, and college football is involved. But also, people's funds are not like they used to be. People's money, Vegas is not a cheap place to go to anymore. You're gonna pay for everything. It's not as easy to get in here price wise anymore like it used to be. So it's a little bit more difficult than it was in the past. But with that being said, you got 70,000 people in a football stadium for a boxing match, and that's very impressive in the year 2025.
Yeah, I can't even imagine the energy being there at that place. And I've said on record before, like that doesn't seem like fun to me. Is going to see boxing in a football stadium, even with concerts. Like I don't like to go if I can't afford to have a decent seat. If I'm up in the nosebleeds, I'd rather just take that money and go to a bar and have a good time. Honestly.
So it's funny you mentioned that. I got offered to buy a $600 seat. It was like $6 and change. And it was nowhere close to the ring. Like it was a decent seat, but it was just nowhere. It was to the point where you're watching on the screen instead of the fight. And I'm like, nah, man. I have the money, but I'd rather just pocket the money and watch it at home.
Yeah, I did look at the tickets at Legion Stadium, and I don't know why I even did because I know I'm not a Legion Stadium Canelo fight in Vegas income bracket.
It's different. It's different.
I don't have kids, so I do all right for myself actually. But that is just a whole other level. And same thing with you. I could have afforded like the nosebleediest of nosebleed seats, but yeah, that just doesn't sound like worth the effort to me. And when you said $600, I'm like, is that in the parking lot? Like, did you even get inside?
No, they were decent.
With $600.
They were decent seats, but for $600, I couldn't justify that. Yeah. And again, I have the money. It's just justifying spending that much on that at that time did not make sense to me.
I got you. Now, really, at the end of the day, I went to see the fight at my go-to place, the Neighborhood Bar on 29th Street in Tucson. Best place to watch boxing. Vibe was awesome. They had a DJ, spinning in between fights. He did the meow 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 thing, and every time Canelo was on, and it's just a really good time, good food, lots of drinks, lots and lots of drinks, and man, Ubered there and back, so I was as responsible as I could have been on a night like that. But it was crazy. Actually, I was surprised. Was surprised at the time, but now I understand. It wasn't as packed as I thought it would have been. There was a good crowd. There's a lot of people there, but again, Netflix, people.
Yeah, man. Being able to, you know what? I'm cool being able to, like, instead of getting dressed up, whatever, you can just be around the house and chilling and turn on TV, app, computer, tablet, whatever, and you're good to go.
That's never really been my thing. I've said it before, I want the experience of going somewhere and watching it and the communal vibe. That's a thing I don't really feel with any other sport. I mean, I've been to Super Bowl watch parties. It doesn't feel the same. I don't get that excitement, vibe, energy, anything like that. If I've watched the Super Bowl at sports bars, at breweries, etc., and it's a good time. I'm not even complaining. I'm saying it's boring or whatever. But it's not the same as a killer boxing match, especially being in Tucson with a lot of Mexicans out here, and the neighborhood specifically being like
how was the
Mexican
mixed company there though? How was the mixed company?
Definitely a lot more Hispanic folks there. I did see in a crowd like 5 or 6 black guys. I didn't specifically hear anything racist from the Mexican people being said, but you know what? I'm sure it happened. I'm sure it happened. I'm just gonna be real about that. I don't fuck with any of that. Me personally, I love boxing and I love Bud Crawford specifically, but I also kind of went in there undercover and didn't make it really clear that I was rooting for Bud, just in case. But yeah, that's something that I just kind of. The point of this show, one of the points of this show is to kind of bridge that divide between black fighters, brown fighters, or their fans rather, and just man, I don't know. At least we didn't lose to a white guy. neither guy lost to a white guy.
Well, that's the funny part. Like I didn't know how popular boxing was. Well, I knew how it was. It probably was in Mexico. I didn't know to what extent. I didn't know that the fights in Mexico have like cards of like 25 fights, and people stay the whole card. I was not aware of that up until this fight. I listened to podcasts, different things, different interviews. I didn't know. Like I know Mexican people support their own. That's a dope thing to do. But I didn't know boxing was such a we're here for the whole card. We get dressed like I didn't know it like that. And it was very impressive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's something I don't know. It's something I've never not known as a kid, and watching Julio Cesar Chavez and just everybody, every Mexican in Houston knew in school knew who Julio Cesar Chavez was. All the kids in elementary school, even I don't know. That's just something that was ingrained in us back then, which is why I'm also such a Canelo fanboy because he sort of brings that energy out from the Mexican fans as well. Haven't really had somebody like that. And curious to see what happens to him going forward. So he's got 2 more fights on the Riyadh season card under Turki Al-Asheik as a promoter. And what do we think is going to happen? I have my ideas. Jamieson, what's next for our boy, for Canelo?
I think it all comes down to if there's a rematch or not. Because if there's a rematch or not, that's obviously one of them, right? Like that's obviously the common thing. And then if there's not, then I think you see a filler for the next one and then kind of see how things go for the last one. I don't think there's like a huge – I mean, Canelo's always going to draw, so it's always going to be people wanting to fight him. I just don't know what fights that he really wants to make at this time. I don't know.
See, good. Our producer, Jabari Davis, he asked on Blue Sky that whether we think Canelo's going to fight Benavidez or not. I gave that a straight hell no. Hell no.
No, not this day, no.
Yeah, for the reasons that I mentioned before, Benavidez is a big guy. Bivol was a big guy. Mm-hmm. Canelo is a little guy that got beefy, and Bud Crawford was a little guy that got beefy as well, and Canelo couldn't do it. So I think it's probably eye-opening for him, probably more so than before, because obviously he didn't want the Benavidez fight.
Right.
But that is never gonna. I would be shocked. I'll go on record and say I don't believe it's ever going to happen. I've been wrong before. I've never been afraid to be wrong. But I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine if he's trying to, milk this Saudi contract for as much as he can, that he wouldn't take a rematch because other than the Benavidez fight, I don't think there's any other fight he can make that's really going to get the, the following, the excitement, the hype. If you really want to make this pay out for you, Canelo, it's got to be another Bud fight.
It has to be a rematch. But here's the thing: Bud has to want to do the rematch. Like Bud doesn't have to do the rematch. Like he doesn't have to.
That's a good point.
I don't think he was turning it down because it's obviously favoring him a lot. But I don't think he has to want to do it. That's the first thing. Secondly, Canelo would have to want to do it as well. And if the money, the thing is, I don't know where the general interest is for it. Obviously, people will go. It'll probably sell out Allegiant again if that's where you had it. But I don't know if the hype with the first one would transfer to the second one. I don't know.
Okay. My opinion, I think he should take these, finish off the Saudi contract and retire. Honestly, no shade. Man's a legend. He also cemented himself in boxing history. He's one of the best to ever do it. But I would rather he, dip than just kind of keep coming back and just become a sad situation where he should have just passed his prime and should have retired ages ago. We've seen that as well.
That, and also you've made the money, so money should not be an option. You have a Hall of Fame career. You're one of the best fighters of your generation. I don't think there's anything more to prove. Like I said, you're not fighting Benavidez. Like, that's not happening. There's no more rematches with anyone else. Play out the string. Like I said, you can have 2 random fights and then call it a day. I just don't see it. I just don't want to see him. Because remember, before this fight was made, there was a rumor that he was going to fight Jake Paul. And,
right.
I don't think that's going to happen. But, that was – I think he was using it as leverage. But, yeah, I think that we see Canelo. I don't see him taking on anything crazy. I don't see him doing any challenges at this stage. I think it's going to – it is what it is. He had a great run, a hell of a run, a lot of fights. But I agree with you. I think it's time.
Well, and there's 2 avenues here. Yeah, I agree with you. We're not going to see a Bivol rematch. We're not going to see a Benavidez fight. Nope. Iffy on whether there's a Bud rematch. The question is he going to take 2 whatever fights, makes money and dip, or is he going to take these 2 fights and then keep going in 2027 and forward? And should he? The man's got a crazy hell of an ego. Let's be legit. He probably wanted to go out on a high as his career was winding down.
But also, here's the thing: we don't know what boxing looks like in another year or 2. We don't know who steps up. We don't know who emerges. We don't know anything. So if there's something that comes out of nowhere and presents itself, all right, I get it. But until that actually happens, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to have to do something outside the box to get attention, even if it's a random fight. Like he said, he wanted to fight in London. Maybe he does something like that. He fought in Saudi Arabia before. Maybe he does that. Maybe he goes back to Guadalajara, to his hometown, and because that last fight in Guadalajara against that British guy, sold out in like minutes, like the entire thing. Yeah, so he could do that again. So in order to kind of not just have him sort of putter out of the sport, hand in hand, something like that where you can say, okay, Canelo in London, him in the photo next to the bridge and the Queen or whatever. I don't have a Queen anymore, but you know what I mean.
Yep. Oh yeah.
But something like that he's really gotta find a hook for 2026 to kind of garner the attention and the hype.
No doubt.
And yeah, I mean, same thing. Love the man, had an amazing career. But here's the thing, though. We cannot get stuck in the situation where he had a couple of losses and he's on his way out in his late 30s and just say, well, he sucks now. He's trash. He's a bum, etc. The man had an amazing run and he should always be given credit for that. So a few losses doesn't.
It's not a bad fight either. That's the thing.
Right.
He didn't get wasn't like he got embarrassed out there. That wasn't the case. He just lost. I mean, like I said, I didn't think the fight was 115, 113, but it wasn't like he got washed 120 to 108. So it wasn't that. Anyone else he fights Saturday night probably wins. It's just he fought against a guy that just that damn good.
Yeah. Agreed. Man, I don't know. I mean, over the weekend, RIP Ricky Hatton, Christian Mabili versus Lester Martinez, amazing fight with these 2 guys on the same card. It was just an all-around amazing event and just a really interesting weekend for boxing. Naoya Inoue came back on Sunday. I thought that after the Canelo fight, I would be able to stay awake till I think 3:40 a.m. to watch the Naoya Inoue fight live. Famous last words.
I'm glad you're bringing that up. We don't need no fight starting at 10 p.m. local time. We don't need that. We need a 9 p.m. should be the Because remember, we're on the West Coast, so it's we are okay. But if you're in the Midwest or East Coast, this is rough, bro. A 1 a.m. start time is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't bother me because I'm a night owl and I don't get enough sleep anyway. But at the same time, to me, boxing was always like a middle of the night kind of event. Staying up late as a kid, later than I should be to watch fights. With the family. I don't know. It just seems, boxing is indoors. Boxing is, it's a nighttime event. That's why when I was, taking boxing classes and sparring, and I asked a buddy of mine to run with me. He was just like, "Yeah, let's meet up at 7 a.m." I'm like, what the hell for? Boxing is at night.
Right,
so,
right.
Boxing's inside. I'm not going to go. We were like jogging in the cold in the winter, and I'm like, this sucks. so yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't know. That's always been a boxing's always been.
Remember, it's not for us. We're fine. It's
for
people back east, bro. Like a 1 a.m. start time ain't it, bro?
Yeah. I'll give you 1 a.m. You tell me main event starts at midnight, my time, wherever I am, I'm still okay with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but here's the issue, though. There's more people you can get if your main event starts at 10:30, 11 than midnight. You know what I mean? Like, if that's the goal, remember, we all talk about the business part. If that's what we're on, then yeah, like we got to be smart about this.
So one of the last things here we can finish up with is, how do you feel about Netflix being involved in boxing? I mean, obviously, the fact that Netflix, it didn't do what we said could potentially happen is they throw on a fight and it just like sits there and you want to watch it. There was promotion. They advertised all of the press conferences, all that. They really, really went on this as a major event. Do you think it was good for Netflix to be involved in this fight?
Yeah, it was cool. I didn't like that the post-fight feed went out. I didn't like that. But for the most part, it was cool. It was clear. It was no buffering. The servers were good. Like, it was all good. The announcement team was good. I forgot the skipper's card was kind of off. I thought that was kind of weird, but whatever. But with all that being said, it was a really good production.
Agreed. I think that what Netflix needs to do is to get into the smaller fights, not just the once every year, every 2 years mega fights. It's, hey, remember, we're the guys that put on Canelo Crawford. Let's watch, whatever, like a Teofimo Lopez fight or something like that, and just get more quantity of the good fighters that we know.
Right.
And I think that's going to be a very good option for boxing going forward. Top Rank, still kind of in the win. I saw a thing online that the Naoya Inoue fight was going to be broadcast live on Facebook, which is weird. Yeah, so I don't know what Top Rank is going to be doing, but here's another thing. People on Instagram, at the very least, were commenting, okay, so where can I see this fight? Where can I see Oscar Valdez? And that's what happens when you leave ESPN and you don't have a home, as we've said. So we gotta, how about it? Pick something, damn it. Just pick a channel, pick a streaming network. I don't care,
I think that's coming because what's happening is you have people who are in charge that are the adults in the room now, and they're here to make a deal. They're not here to tell you how great they are or any nonsense like that. They're here to make a deal, which is always good. And we like the guy from UFC. Why am I forgetting his name for some reason? Yes. He's here to make a deal. He's here to make sure we get fights, because in his sport we get fights, and whether we like UFC or not, they fight a lot, and there's a lot of big events. So with that being said, it's a big deal. It makes a lot of sense for there to be actual fights. It makes sense to be like, hey, you know what? Let's put them on TV. Let's have somewhere where boxing fans know where it's going to be at. So it makes sense.
Can't wait to see what's next. I'm very curious. I really don't feel that this is like the thing happened and then everybody just kind of shrugs their shoulders and I was like, all right, whatever, never forget. Now people are I feel the vibe is excitement, because Bud's the big star right now. He's got a lot of attention that he hadn't had before. Fans of his, like ours, are excited for other people to say, wait, this guy? Who's this guy? Yeah. So I don't think it wasn't like, peak and then, the excitement went downhill. I think it's a good time for boxing to kind of ride this wave, as far as I'm concerned. So
most definitely.
Cool. I guess we'll maybe call this episode 20. Last episode was 24. Is this 24.5, 25? I don't even know.
Bonus episode.
Bonus episode. Yeah. Okay. Jamieson, where can people find you on social media?
On Twitter at the Jamieson. That's where I'm at the most. Oh, there you go.
Excellent. Follow our show on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Twitter at Mixed Co Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. Leave us a 5-star review. Watch us on YouTube. The link is on the show notes, or find our playlist on the 19 Media Group channel. Our official show email address, if you have any questions, fun stories about watching boxing and mixed company, send it all to letters@mixedcopodcast.com. And don't forget, so we typically drop new episodes every other Thursday, and our next scheduled show is going to be on September 25th. So join us for Mas Fuego from the boxing world. We have been the Mixed Company Podcast, a 19 Media Group production. Thank you so much for listening, and salud.
Salud.